Greetings once again to the great students in the Biblical Hermeneutics class here at Southeastern University. This is your instructor, Dr. Larry Asplund, coming to you at the end of week 1 and the beginning of week 2. I wanted to be able to stop by this evening and welcome you to week 2. As you know, these 8-week intensives come and go rather quickly. So my commitment to you is to stay as close to you as I can along the way and to make sure that you are clear as to what's coming up, what will be expected in a given week, and how that's going to take us step by step through this class. The Module 2 theme is learning to survey the text. So when we're talking about surveying the text, we're really talking about getting down to analyzing paragraphs, sentences, etc. So that, we really need to begin there at the smaller units of the text when it comes to our exegesis, our hermeneutics when it comes to the text of Scripture. You've had an opportunity to choose a passage in the book of Ephesians. So in Module 2, we're going to begin to dig more deeply into your chosen passage so that you can begin to move in the direction of an exegetical paper, which of course is coming up at the very end of this class. The Module 2 aim, there's another great introduction that you will want to read and familiarize yourself with. And then there's important learning objectives in Module 2. First of all, to identify preliminary interpretive questions to ask about a biblical passage. Number 2, to recognize and employ an inductive method to survey a biblical passage. So that means you're going to take it apart. You're going to look at the individual pieces, the individual parts of the passage that you have chosen. Number 3, to recognize and employ the tools necessary in observing biblical sentences and paragraphs. Number 4, to discuss selected headings for studying a passage. And that's really an outlining kind of a process that is very, very important and very helpful when it comes to interpreting passages of Scripture. And number 5, to create a list of observations about your text so that you can begin to ask the questions that will be necessary for you to pursue when it comes to your exegesis of your chosen passage. In terms of the material that's available to you that you will want to study, etc., this coming week, first of all, the great book by Scott McKnight, we're asking you to read chapters 3, 4, and 5. The very important textbook from Michael Gorman, we're asking you to read chapter 3. And then there are 2 very important review presentations that are going to directly connect to assignments this week. So you want to review the presentation called How Do You Read Paragraphs? And then the presentation called How Do You Read Sentences? Once again, these are kind of central specifically to what we're doing in Module 2 and to some of the work that you will be doing. Now, in terms of the graded assignments, of course, we have a discussion forum. And so here's the prompt in Module 2 to come up with the headings within the chapter that your passage of study is in. So you're going to kind of, having done a little bit of work with your passage, having chosen some appropriate headings, you will give a bit of a report. These headings should be succinct, brief statements that cover what you believe to be the main point of the passage. Make sure that you give the verses that correspond to the section your heading is in. Of course, you're dealing with your chosen passage. You should have at least 3 headings that you should come up with for your chapter, are allowed to do more and encouraged to do so. So remember, this is an outlining process that is very important in terms of guiding your interpretation of your chosen passage. Now, as always true, there are very detailed discussion instructions, so should be sure to look at the assignment in your online section, your online site, and make sure that you're clear on all of those details in Module 2. And of course, I'm looking forward to jumping in later and giving you some feedback. Also, there are a couple of written assignments, one called Learning to Survey the Text. Here is a brief prompt for that written assignment. In order to apply what was learned this week in Learning to Survey the Text, you're going to create a list of observations about your text. There's a sample given to you online that will be very helpful for you as an example. In order to do so, you create a list of at least 25 observations about the text in Ephesians, the passage that you selected in Module 1. This list should include some of the main questions you learned about in this week's video, the who, what, where, when, why, and how kinds of observation questions. You should have at least 2 questions about your text within each of the 5 W's and an H as well. That's the how. As any other observations and educated guesses about the text. So you're going to begin to unpack what you see happening in the text in terms of what it means, but begin to unpack in terms of what it means to you, and begin to look at possible ways that you could apply the text. Once again, very detailed instructions are given to you in the assignment description online. There's a second written assignment this week called Writing an Introduction. This is really the very first step in doing a rough draft. This is not a rough draft of your entire paper, obviously. It's just a single page, but it gets you started in the direction of what will be your exegetical paper. And so first, explain your reason for selecting this passage for your study out of all the other passages that are available to you. Next, briefly state the thesis of your study and what you initially believe to be the main idea of the passage. And then finally, to indent and type out the passage in single space. Refer to the sample paper provided for visual aid. There's a lot of great, in fact, helps with this particular assignment. Detailed descriptions under the assignment, but also links to very helpful resources that will begin to lead you in the direction ultimately of your exegetical paper. So be sure to take the time to do that as you begin to write this coming week. Then there, of course, is a quiz, a very simple 10-question open book, open notes, 30-minute maximum review opportunity for you this week over all of the various readings that have been assigned to you in Module 2. And this, of course, will be due by the end of the day on next Tuesday. I just love the idea of beginning to take apart the individual components of your text. Begin to think in terms of an outline. Begin to think in terms of observation questions. Begin to unpack what you see there. You know, we don't always do that. We don't often do that. We take time to read Scripture, reflect on Scripture, very, very important. Occasionally memorize passages of Scripture. But to be able to do exegesis, you really have to start by looking at those small elements. So that's where we're going to begin this coming week. I know it's going to be a great opportunity for you. I pray that you will have kind of an inspiration, if not a passion, for your chosen passage in Ephesians, that you will just rejoice in the opportunity to begin to look more specifically and more carefully at the elements of your chosen passage. So it's going to be a great week. I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. As always, please remember that I am here to serve you. It is my honor to do so. If you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to let me know. And of course, you're going to be in my prayers in Module 2. So God bless you, everybody. Just have a wonderful week.